fam, that's what they call me. Promise that you'll never be lonely. Peter Pan, that's what they call me.
I don't want to hear it. I said I don't want to hear it. Like, I already know y'all throwing stuff at me and cursing at the TV and all type of stuff like that because I ain't been around in like 2 months. Listen, all right? I don't want to hear it, okay? I know that y'all are mad. I know that y'all are upset, okay? But I have a reasonable explanation. Your girl just was going through a whole bunch of shit. And we'll get into it in another video. I might make a whole video about why I ain't been around in 2 months. I know I've been fucking up, you know, as your favorite YouTuber. You know, y'all might fire me. Y'all probably fired me already. But listen, I'm here to get back into your good graces, all right? What's up, y'all? Happy New Year, everybody! It's 2022, y'all. We are in 2022. And in light of February being Black History Month, the shortest month of the year, when they gonna change that? We didn't change everything else. You know, the shortest month of the year we didn't change everything else. So much stuff has been changed. But that's the one thing that we ain't changed. That we still get the shortest month out of the year to celebrate Black History Month. But anyway, y'all can tell by the face what's about to go on. So in light of Black History Month, I figure I give y'all a Black History Month special edition of Let Me Put You On. So y'all, you know what? A lot of people, I'm not even gonna say that. There's Black history, like textbook Black history shit that you learned in school, like the little bit that you learned in school. Well, when I was in school, I don't know what they doing with kids now. But there's the little textbook Black history, and then there's like barbershop Black history where you get like the real deal Holyfield of what was going on at a certain time and place. So today, I'm going to give y'all the real deal barbershop Holyfield Black history lesson today. Surprisingly, a lot of people do not know about this story. A lot of people still don't know. A lot of people are just now learning about it, which is shocking to me. Like, I can't even believe. Like, when I meet a Black person that be like, who's that? I'll be like, what? Like, I'll be really in shock. But today, y'all, we're going to talk about Emmett Till. Now, if y'all been watching TV lately, they just did a 2020 special on him and his mama, Mamie Till. And they just did a series about him called Mothers of the Movement. I think they're going to have more people that they're going to talk about. Like, I think she was just the starting point. But I think they're going to do more about, you know, other mothers that had to do with the movement or whatever like that. But they did a great job. Like, y'all know how I feel when it comes to movies about historical events, and I'll be feeling like they're gonna water it down and dumb it down to appease white people. But child, that had me. Like, I ain't even gonna front. Like, I watched it and I was like, oh my God. Like, they really got everything right. Like, the wardrobe was right. The hair was right. Everything was right. Like, they did a really good job. So if you have a chance, you know, if you have Hulu, look up Mothers of the Movement and watch that. And watch the 2020 special. It's called Let the World See. I think that's what it's called. Let the World See. So yeah, y'all, we're gonna talk about Emmett Till today. But you know what we gotta do? We gotta go way back. We ain't even talking like a couple of years. We gotta go way back, y'all. We gotta go back to the year 1955. Let's get it, y'all. All right, y'all. So y'all know I'm gonna be doing my makeup as I usually do when I, am educating y'all on some stuff. So 1955, y'all. What was happening in 1955? Now, 1955 was the beginning, I would say, of the civil rights movement. And there were a lot of events that took place to set it off. Well, to set off the civil rights movement. But the thing is, y'all, according to textbook Black history, it started with Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat to that white man on that bus. Nah, y'all, it ain't start with her. I hate to say it. If you grew up thinking that, it didn't start. It didn't start there, y'all. It started way before then. In 1955, Martin Luther King had led the bus boycott. That happened after the Rosa Parks situation. The president of the United States, at the time, which was Eisenhower. Eisenhower wasn't no young man. He was old as shit, so he had a heart attack, and he ended up being hospitalized for like 3 weeks. Minimum wage had moved up to $1. Can y'all believe that in 1955 minimum wage was $1? Compared to what it is now, minimum wage was $1. Genius Albert Einstein passed away in 1955. And Commerce, I forgot what them people is called, but whoever is in control of the buses and travel system of the USA, they called for an ending of all segregation on buses and trains on the interstate. Segregation ended. But something else happened in 1955. And this incident set off all of that. Set off the bus boycott, set off the ending of segregation, Jim Crow, all that. It set off everything was thrown off track when this happened. And I'm talking about the murder of Emmett Till. Emmett Till was a 14-year-old boy from Chicago. Now let me explain something to y'all. In 1955, racism was nothing new to the black community. You know what I'm saying? It was nothing new. It wasn't like it was something that we were experiencing for the first time and stuff, and lynchings were like an everyday thing. But what made this incident different from every other incident beforehand was the fact that this kid was 14 years old. 14 years old. 14-year-old boy. And he was from Chicago. He wasn't even from the South. He was from Chicago. Where lynchings and all type of stuff was like I said, it was an ordinary thing. And if you was from up north, you heard about it, but never really experienced it. You know what I mean? You just heard about it. And you knew that it was happening because, like me, a lot of my family comes from the South. Like, my whole mother's side of the family comes from South Carolina. So, I mean, the stuff that you heard about, but never actually witnessed it. So, Emmett was born on July 25th, 1941. He was born to Mammy Till and Louis Till. Now, when he was 6 years old, he contracted polio, which was a common thing at that time. I don't think the vaccine was out. Y'all know there's like a polio vaccine now. I don't even know if they still giving that to kids. Y'all don't know. Y'all have to let me know because y'all know I ain't got no kids. But I think this was before the vaccine came out for polio. But when he was 6 years old, he contracted polio. And because of that, he formed a real bad stutter because he had polio. So, his mother and his father were married, but it wasn't a great relationship. and Mammy had decided to separate from Lewis when she found out that he was being unfaithful to her. But not only was he being unfaithful to her, but he was also abusive. There was an incident where where they got into an argument, they got into a fight, and he choked her until she was unconscious. But Mammy wasn't no punk, so in that same instance, she threw a pot of boiling water on him. Like, it was just a mess or whatever like that. She ended up getting a restraining order, going to the courts and asking for them to get a restraining order against him so that he could stay away from her. Which he didn't do. She got the restraining order, but he was like, fuck that, I'm not staying away from you. So he ended up getting arrested. And when they took him before the judge said, okay, either you can go to jail or you can go to the military. Which ones you gonna do, sir? So he decided to go to the military. So he went to the military and he was stationed, I don't even remember. He ended up going to the military. And I told y'all in my Barry Windshield video, you know how when you're in the military you get passes. You get like weekend passes or whatever. So when Emmett was about to turn 3, his father got sent to Italy. And while in Italy on a pass, he got accused of murdering one white woman and murdering one white woman and raping 2 other white women. Mind you, the 2 women that were accused, that reported the rape, when they arrested him and brought him in front of these women and they were asked, is this the man who raped you? They said no. Nobody ever said that this man raped them. And nobody ever said he wasn't even around when this murder supposedly happened. But he was a black man. This was 1955. No, this was I think this happened because Emmett was born in 1941. So this had to be around 1943, 1944. You know what I'm saying? This was around that time. It was still very racist. And people were still very ignorant. And it didn't matter that he was innocent. They ended up executing him anyway. They ended up executing him and putting that on his file. Like that he raped 2 women and killed another. He raped 2 white women and killed another white woman. So, Emmett grew up without his father. It was just him and his mother. And his grandmother. His grandmother and his mother ended up raising him. The summer of 1955 comes and Mammy, his mother, for y'all that always wondered, because I always wondered if that was her real name. Yeah, that was her real name. Her family was from the Delta in Mississippi. So Mammy was her real name. So anyway, summer of 1955, her family comes to Chicago for a visit or whatever. And if you like me, you know that, like, I don't know what it is. Honestly. Because I never understood as a kid either. But, summers come. You like to, hang out with your cousins. You like to hang out with your friends or whatever like that. And if you got family that's from down south, you end up going down south for the summer. For the summer, spring break, when school is out or whatever. I don't know, y'all. I only went down south as a kid when I was probably like 12 years old. And I was forced to go. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. It was just something that, my mother was like, okay, we're going down south for the summer. I don't know why that was considered a vacation. But it was. That was considered a vacation or whatever. So, Mammy's family is visiting from down south. And Emmett sees his cousins and all type of stuff like that. Mammy's great uncle is there with his sons. They're all basically the same age as Emmett or whatever. and all his cousins are going down south with his I guess it would be considered his great uncle because it was his mom's uncle, so his great uncle. And his great uncle's name was Mose Wright. So all the cousins are going down south or whatever for the summer. And they're telling Emmett, like, yo, we about to go down south. Like, we going down south. Like, all his cousins that was up there. You know, it was like a family get-together. So all the family is together. And all the cousins are talking. And it's like, oh, we're going down south with Mose Wright for the summer. You know what I'm saying? It might not have been the summer, y'all. It might have been spring break. Either way, he was out of school. So all the cousins are getting together. And they're like, yeah, we're going down south. We're going to have fun. And blah, 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 blah. This is not something that was new. This is something that had been done before. You know, so Emmett is like, oh, all my cousins is going down south or whatever. I want to go down south too. So he goes to his mother and he's like, yeah, Ma, I want to go down south. I want to go travel with them. She's immediately hesitant because, y'all, it's 1955. It's 1955 and she's from Mississippi. Now, I don't remember what time, y'all, but there was a time where they call it basically the Great Migration, where a lot of black people from the South had came up north. A lot of them went to New York. Some of them went to Chicago. You know, a lot of people from the South had migrated up north because there wasn't no opportunities in the South for them. They couldn't get jobs. You know, a lot of them were sharecroppers and all type of stuff like that. So Mammy was from the South, and Mammy was from Mississippi, and she knew that, you know, there's certain things that you do up north that you can't do down south. So she was hesitant. And she really didn't want him to go. But, you know, she didn't want him to be like, you know, he's a boy. You know, he's a teenage boy, a pre-teenage boy, and he wants to go down south with his cousins and have fun, you know. As most mothers would be a little skeptical. You know, mothers are like that anyway when you want to just go outside as a teenage boy. You know, they always, you know, be careful, you know, don't do nothing stupid. Don't, you know what I mean? But like I said, y'all, this was the South. So, as much as she didn't approve of him going, she decided that she was going to let him go. But before he left, she prepped him. Like, she was like, when you go down there, it's not like Chicago. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to be really respectful to these white people. Like, if you see them walking down the street, you have to step off the sidewalk and bow your head. Don't look none of them in the eye. Don't talk to them. None of that. Like, you know, don't like, if you go to the store and you buying something, don't put no money directly in their hand. And always keep your head down. Don't ever look none of them in the eye, because that's considered disrespectful. So, you know, she prepped him as best as she could and decided to let him go. So, they go and, you know, up until, this is what Mammy said. Mammy said up until the train station, like when she dropped him off on the train, she was like scared, like, you know, not feeling like something was going to happen, but she was scared, like, you know, like, I hope he listens to what I told him to do. Like, I hope he was paying attention when I was telling him, you know, don't do this, don't do that, da 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 da. So she drops him off at the train station or whatever, and he had his father's watch, and he gave his mom his father's watch, and he's like, here, you can take this and hold on to it, because I don't need that where I'm going. Like, I don't need that, you know what I'm saying? But he asked for the ring, his father's ring. Remember I told y'all about his father's ring and how, you know, he said he wanted to show it off to his cousins. Like, you know, I got this ring, I'm going to show it off to my cousins, whatever, but hold on to this watch until I get back. She said he was in a rush. He was so excited about going and seeing his cousins and all type of stuff like that. She drops him off at the train station. He gets on the train and goes to Mississippi. So, now they're in Mississippi. And they're having a good old time, you know, doing what boys do, going swimming and going fishing and all type of stuff. And another thing that they did, they used to pick cotton. They would pick cotton for money. So after a day of picking cotton, they decide that they're going to go to the store. They're going to go to the local grocery store in Money, Mississippi. Now, there was one store in Money, Mississippi that everybody went to. And it was called Bryant's. Bryant's grocery store. And it was owned by a guy named Roy Bryant and his wife, Carol Bryant. Now, this is what happened. This is according to everybody that was there. They go in the store, and Emmett goes in there at first by himself. But one of his cousins his older cousin sent his younger cousin in there just to make sure he didn't do nothing stupid, because they said that Emmett was a prankster, like he was a jokester. He liked to joke around. So his older cousin sends his younger cousin in there with him. So he goes in there, and Carol Bryant is at the counter at the register, and he goes and he buys some bubble gum. So he goes to pay for the bubble gum, takes his money and goes to put it in her hand, and she jerked her hand back. Almost like, you know, I don't want this nigga touching me, like, you know, disrespectful. According to his cousin, he didn't say anything to her. That was like the only incident that happened, that he didn't say anything to her. Him and his cousin leave the store. They leave the store, and she comes out the store, and she's going to her car. As she's walking to her car, he whistled at her. A wolf whistle. I don't know if y'all know what that is. I can't whistle, so I can't tell y'all. I can't imitate what it is. But Google wolf whistle. All parties agreed he did whistle at her. A wolf whistle. And when he did that, everybody got scared. Everybody said, nigga, you crazy? Do you know where you at? You in the South. And you just whistled at a white lady. So they said that Carol Bryant, she didn't say nothing. She just kept walking to her car, and somebody said that she going to get her gun. So when somebody said that she going to go get her gun, they all ran up out of there. They all jumped in the truck and left money back to Emmett's great uncle's house. They're in the car, and they're basically like, why would you do that? Like, you're crazy. You don't know what that means. That, like, are you insane? Why would you do something like that? What possessed you to do that? Blah, blah, blah. Now Emmett is scared because he's like, oh shit, what did I just do? Like, you know what I mean? They're driving back to the Delta, and a car is following them. So they're still driving, trying to, you know, get away from this car, but this car is not leaving. So they all end up jumping out the car and running home or whatever like that. Emmett is like, please don't tell Mo's right what just happened. Don't tell him, you know what I'm saying? My thinking is that he was scared that they was going to send him back home. I don't think he had any idea of what was about to come. I think that's why he just, you know, he just didn't want to go back home. Like, oh, please don't say anything. You know what I'm saying? So all the cousins were like, all right, we're not going to say anything. But the neighbors that they was with is like, that's not going to be the last that y'all hear about that incident. Like, it happened in front of a whole bunch of people. So it's like, that's not the last that y'all going to hear about that incident. So a couple of days go by, And then at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I would say on August. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna give y'all a date. I don't want to fuck up and give y'all the wrong date. August 28th, at like between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, two white men show up at Moses Wright's house. Mind you, they never said anything to Mose Wright about what happened at the grocery store. So he's open. Well, somebody knocks on the door. He goes to the door and he's like, well, who is it? Now, apparently, this is what some people say. Being that incident happened in town in front of all these people, when I say all these people, I mean his cousins, some neighbors. There was some men across the street playing checkers. There was some men in front of the store. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people were there when this happened. So apparently, word got back to Roy Bryant that some black kid from Chicago, visiting from Chicago, disrespected his wife. And when I say disrespected his wife, it wasn't just a whistle. Like, they weren't like, oh, well, he whistled at her. Even still, that would have been bad. But the story got elaborated. Oh, he grabbed her by her arm. Oh, he grabbed her by her waist. Oh, he was bragging about being with white women before. Like, he came on to her and all type of stuff. The story got embellished so much. So he goes and asks her, like, well, did a black kid come in the store and touch you? I don't know why she said, yeah, y'all. I think she was disrespected about the whistle. She was upset about the whistle. So she's like, yeah. And she embellished on the story too. So now he's hot. Now he's mad. He goes and he gets his brother-in-law, a guy named J.W. Milam. Now, all accounts admit that Roy, not to say that he wasn't racist, but he was racist. But JW was even more racist. He was way more racist. So he goes and he gets his brother-in-law and tells his brother-in-law, oh, this black kid came into the store and disrespected my wife. Okay, we're going to go find him then. So they end up driving all the way to Mose Wright's house, because Mose Wright was a preacher. So a few people in town knew that he was a preacher and was like, oh, that's the preacher's nephew. He's visiting from Chicago. So they go on August 28th and knock on his door at like between 2 and 3 in the morning. He comes to the door and he's just like, oh, who is it? And they like, oh, it's Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam. We from Money and we want to talk to you. So, like I said, Mose Wright is not knowing what's going on because nobody ever told him about the incident that happened. So he's not knowing what's going on. So he opens the door. As soon as he opens the door, J.W. Milam pulls a pistol on him. And he's like, you have a nigger from Chicago visiting you? And he's like, I mean, of course, you know, you see a man with a pistol and a pistol pointed at you. He's like, yeah. He's like, where is he? We want to talk to him. We want to talk to him because we heard he likes to talk. And he does a lot of talking that he's not supposed to be doing. So everybody in the house is confused. Mose Wright is confused. His wife is confused. Like, you know, but seeing the pistol, they knew, you know, this ain't going to be a good situation. So they insist on Mose Wright taking them to where Emmett is at. Now, everybody that was in the house, all the young boys that were in the house were his cousins, and they were there when that incident happened. So, Mose Wright is kind of like stalling. He's taking them bedroom to bedroom. So, he goes to the first bedroom where his oldest son is. They're like, nah, that's not him. We looking for the fat kid from Chicago. He goes to another room where Emmett is at and his younger son, Simeon Wright, was sleeping in the same bed with him. And it's like, yeah, that's him. So they wake him up. And they're like, come on, put your shoes on. We going. Put your shoes on. I think they asked him, like you from Chicago? You that fat kid from Chicago? Whatever like that. And he was like, yes. But he wasn't saying, yes, sir, or no, sir. Like, in the South, respectful. So that was pissing them off. That was making them even more mad. Like, this boy really disrespectful. Like, he not even saying yes, sir, or no, sir. So, according to Simi and his cousin, he wasn't really fully grasping what was going on at that moment. Like, he was putting on his clothes and stuff like that, but not really panicking. Like, not really panicking and stuff like that. And Simeon was like, he had no idea what these men were really about to do. So he's putting on his clothes or whatever like that. He goes to put on his shoes, and he goes to put on his socks first, and they're like, no, don't put on your socks. He tells them, well, I'm not used to putting on my shoes without socks. Piss them off. Grab him up, take him out of the house. And, Mose Wright is pleading with them. He not from here, y'all. He not from the South. He not from Mississippi. He don't know no better. He don't got no sense. Like, please don't take him. And his wife is like, I'll pay y'all. I'll give y'all money if y'all don't take him. Just leave him. Like, I'll give y'all money. And Simeon said that Roy hesitated when she offered money. When she was like, I'll pay y'all, he kind of hesitated like, maybe we shouldn't take him. But JW was like, hell no. We taking this motherfucker up out of here. So they took him out the house and took him over to the van, where somebody in the front seat, they asked somebody in the front seat, is this the one? And the person said yes. Now, Mose Wright said it sounded like a woman. It could have been a man, but he didn't see nobody. He just heard the voice, and he said the voice sounded like a woman. It didn't sound like a man. Throw him in the back of the truck and drive away. Mose Wright is like, oh my God, like, what the hell? What we gonna do now? Like, they done took this boy from my house. Like, what the hell am I gonna do? So nobody went to sleep that night. Everybody was sitting there, and according to their testimony, they assumed that they were gonna bring him back. They was like, okay, they probably just gonna take him down the road and beat the shit out of him, but bring him back. So they're all waiting for him to come back, waiting for them to bring him back. They don't bring him back. So days are going by. A day goes by, nothing. Another day goes by, nothing. So Mose Wright's neighbors is like, you gotta go to the sheriff. You gotta go to the sheriff, like, and say that they took this boy, like, you know what I'm saying? And Mose Wright was hesitant, not hesitant, but not, I can't even say hesitant. Well, I can't say hesitant. He didn't want to call his mother. He didn't want to call his mother and say, they said Bo. That was his nickname. They never called him Emmett. They called him Bo. So after a day or two, he had to call Chicago and say, two white men took Bo from my house. They said that he whistled at some white lady. So now his mother's in a panic, like, oh my God, I didn't want my son to go in the first place, and now look what happened. Like, what's going on? Like, we gotta find him. So they're calling everybody, But once people there in Mississippi, once they heard, that he was taken because he whistled at a white lady, nobody wanted to be involved. They were like, listen, can't help you. So apparently a few people that Mammy knew members of the NAACP. So the NAACP got involved and basically put out the word that two white men had taken this boy from his uncle's house and he's missing. That was the first reports, that he was missing. August 31st, two white men are fishing by the Tallahatchie River. And they're fishing, and all of a sudden, they see 2 feet sticking up out of the water. So they're like, oh shit. Okay. Call the authorities or whatever. Pull the body up out of the water. Can't even tell who this is because the body is like damn near all decomposed. The face is unrecognizable. Everything is unrecognizable. All you know that it's a black person. That's all you know. So they call Mose Wright. They're like, Mose Wright, listen, you said that your nephew was taken when we just found a body in near the Tallahatchie River. You wanna come and see what's going on? So Mose Wright goes up to the river or whatever like that. Now I'm gonna tell y'all what he said. Because there's been conflicting accounts of what was said or whatever. So Mose Wright shows up to the river or whatever. They pull the body out. They got the body sitting in a boat. And, show him the body. He don't know. He can't tell. He said the body was completely decomposed. You couldn't tell by the face who it was or whatever like that. But Emmett had his father's ring on. So Mose Wright saw the ring. And he's like, yeah, that's him. That's his father's ring. Took the ring and kept the ring. And nobody saw that ring again until the trial. Because Mose Wright had gave the prosecutor the ring. And I'm going to tell y'all why. So he's like, yeah, that's him. So Mose Wright said the body was completely decomposed. You couldn't tell by the face who it was. All he could tell was that his tongue had been cut out and shoved back up in his mouth. It smelled. And that his private parts had been cut off. That's what Mose Wright said. So they call Mammy and they say, yes, Mammy, that was Emmett's body. They found his body or whatever. And she said, hearing that, as upset as she was, she couldn't fall apart. She just had to think of what to do next. Because here I am. I sent my son down to Mississippi for vacation. And now I'm getting a call that he's dead. And he's in Mississippi. He's in Mississippi. I need my son back in Chicago. But the sheriff, mind you, everybody already knew that Emmett had been kidnapped. So the last place he was seen was with these 2 white men. So the sheriff already knew, like, oh shit, like, my guess is that they killed him and threw him in the river. Everybody knew that. Everybody already had the inkling of that is what happened or whatever like that. But they were trying to cover it up. The sheriff was trying to cover it up for the sake of black people in the county, white people in the county. Like, on one hand, it was like, oh, we don't want people to think that this is what we do in Mississippi. And then on the other hand, it was like, well, he kind of deserved it because he from Chicago and he shouldn't have been making passes at a white woman. So the sheriff is just like, okay, well, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just bury the body and pretend that this never happened. I'm gonna order for the family to bury the body, and that's it. So he went to Mose Wright and was just like, listen, I'm gonna need you to bury that body. You a preacher, you got a church, dig the grave and bury the body. So Mose Wright is scared. Like, he's already scared because of, what just happened. Mind you, I didn't mention this to y'all, but when they took Emmett or whatever like that, and he was pleading for him not to take them, they threatened him. They were telling him, like, I think J.W. Milan asked him, well, how old are you, preacher? And he was like, oh, I'm 74. And he's like, well, if you want to see 75, don't tell nobody about this. So he was scared already. So the sheriff is like, listen, you a preacher, you got a church, dig a grave, and throw the body in there and be done with it. That's it. So Mose Wright is like, okay. So they dig the grave, and all his people, all the family is like, come on, Mose, you can't do that. How you gonna bury him without Mamie? Like, you not gonna even tell Mamie? Like, you not gonna say nothing? You just gonna bury his body? That's not right. Don't do that. And somebody called Mamie, and she's like, excuse me? She's like, excuse me, who gave the word to bury my son? Like, who said, no, you're not burying my son in Mississippi. You're bringing him back here to Chicago, where we're going to have a funeral for him, and he's going to be buried in Chicago. I'm his mother. Who are you to give word to bury him? And like I said, she knew people that was down with the NAACP and all type. She, you know what I'm saying? She had connections. Her peoples had connections. Somehow or another, they got word to stop the burial. So the task was, all right, how are we going to get this body to Chicago without the sheriff knowing? Because according to the sheriff, the body is already in the ground. So they had to, you know, a lot of undertakers was like, nah, I'm not shipping this body. Like, hell no. Somehow or another, Mose Wright found an undertaker that agreed to ship the body. But he agreed to ship the body only if they agreed not to open the casket. Well, not to open the box. Because they shipped him in a pine box. And they packed it with lime because he smelled so bad. Because the body smelled so bad. So they had to pack it in lime. So he was like, okay, I'll sign and have it shipped. But y'all have to sign this agreement that says y'all will not open this box. He signs the agreement, whatever. Sends the body back to Chicago. Mammy recruited a guy named Rayner, which was the local undertaker in their town. She's like, okay, I want to see my son open this box. They're like, no, we can't open the box. She's like, what you mean? He's like, we can't open the box. We had strict orders that we can't open the box, that we would agree. That's the only reason why they was able to ship the body, because we agreed not to open the box. So Mamie is like, well, where's the hammer? Because I didn't agree to anything. I didn't sign anything. It's like, if you ain't going to open the box, then I'm going to open the box. Because Mammy was like, I don't trust these white people. Like, look, they already tried to bury him without my knowledge. Like, hell no. I don't know what's in that box. It could be bricks. It could be sand. How do I know that my son is in that box? So Mr. Rayner is like, okay, since you that content on seeing what's inside the box, all right, fine. I agree. I'll open the box. Go home, and when I get it open, I'll call you, and you can come back to the funeral parlor. So she's like, okay, cool. No problem. Call me when you get the box open. So Mr. Rayner goes and he opens the box and calls her and says, okay, I took the body out of the box. You can come back to the funeral parlor now. So Mammy said on her way back to the funeral parlor, probably 2 blocks before she got to the funeral parlor, she smelled this smell. And she said the smell was horrible. Like, it took up a whole 2-block radius. It was horrible. And she was like, what is that? Come to find out, it was his body. His body was smelling like that. So she gets to the funeral parlor, and they're all like, you don't want to see him like this. Like, prepare yourself, because it's, you know, it's a sight to see. Like, and from the jump, everybody is already like, we're gonna have a closed casket. She's gonna have to close the casket. Like, she ain't gonna want nobody to see her son like this. So Mammy is like, listen, all of y'all need to back the hell up and let me do my own thing. Like, this is my son, and let me do what I need to do. So she went into the room where they had his body. They took his body out of the box and put it on a slab. And she said, okay, I'm not going to go straight for his face. I'm going to go from his feet and work my way up to his face. So she said she started at his feet. She looked at his feet. She looked at his legs and all type of stuff. When she got to his groin area, she said she stopped. And she said that she knew he wouldn't want her looking at him there in that area. But she says she looked enough to be able to tell that he was intact down there. So remember what I told y'all, what Mose Wright had said. He said that his private parts had been cut off. So I don't know if maybe, like I said, he was embalmed already when she got his body. So maybe they fixed that up. I don't know, y'all. But according to his mother, he was intact down there. So she moved along. She went up to his chest, his neck, and all that. When she got to his face, pictures that they show when you Google Emmett Till's name, that's not even half of what was originally seen in 1955. In 1955, Mammy had photographers come from Jet Magazine to take pictures of his body when they first took the body out of the box. But she described what she saw. And she said that his tongue was laying on his chin. One eye was out of the socket and laying on his cheek, and the other eye was gone. All his teeth had been knocked out of his mouth. She said somebody looked like they took a hatchet and chopped the bridge of his nose. So the bridge of his nose was like chopped, broken bones and all that. Then she said he had a bullet hole. When she looked at his ears, she saw the bullet hole. And she realized that they had shot him. And she said with the bullet hole, you could see daylight on the other side. Like the bullet, you could see straight through the... Remember, I told y'all he was embalmed. So they took his brain and everything. And she said that you could see daylight through the other side. And then she said that it looked like somebody had took an axe and went straight down his head. And the front of his face and the back of his head was separate. So, like I said, y'all, Google the Jet Magazine pictures, and Time Magazine also published pictures. And I recently saw the rest of the pictures. I only saw one photo in my whole lifetime until recently, where I saw all the pictures from that day where they took the pictures. Y'all, his head, the back of his skull was gone. Like, there was nothing back here. His head was like a stump. It was like a stump sitting on a body. I didn't see his legs. I don't know what happened with his, but from what the pictures showed, it was just his torso. Just his torso. And a stump. They completely... Now, y'all, it could have been the fact that he was in the water for 3 days, but I feel like if they didn't beat the shit out of him, and he was open, like, he apparently was opened up. Of course, because he got shot. So he already was opened up. But they also beat him, so he probably had a lot of cuts and all type of stuff on him where water could get inside and bloat up his body to where he was mutilated like that. But, y'all, like I said, Google those pictures to see what I'm talking about. So, Mr. Rayner was pressed, and he was like, you want me to fix up his face? Like, fix up his face? I could fix up his face. I could do something, you know, to make it not look so bad. And Mammy was like, no, don't fix up his face. She's like, no, I want people to see exactly what happened. Like, I'm gonna put pictures on his casket of this is how I sent my son down south, and this is how he came back to me. And Mammy said that there was no way she could even tell people. There was no way in the future that she could describe to people and people could get the clear vision of what her son looked like, of what she looked at when her son came back, when her son was shipped back to her. So she was like, no, leave his face alone. Leave his face alone, and I want people to see what I saw. And we're going to have an open casket. And then she went and got the photographers from Jet Magazine and was like, take pictures of this. I want people to see this. So that's what they did. Now, mind you, I don't know if Mr. Rayner was hard-headed or if he was scared. I don't know, y'all. I really don't. But I will tell y'all this. Some of those pictures, well, not even those pictures. The pictures that y'all see with him laying in his casket, because they had to put a glass top on his casket. You know, when you I don't know if any of y'all ever viewed it, because me personally, when I go to funerals, I haven't been to one in a long time, and I thank God, you know what I'm saying? I pray I don't have to go to any more anytime soon. But when you go to a funeral and they do the viewing, that's what they call it. They do the viewing and you pass by the casket, you know, usually you can touch the body. You can touch the body, you can kiss it, you can say your goodbyes, and then you can move on. But in this case, his body smelled so bad, and she wanted that open casket, so they had to put a glass casing on top of his body. And this was the first time this had ever been done, y'all. This had never even been heard of. Like, people putting a glass casing over somebody's casket. But they put a glass casing over his casket, and he did fix up his face a little bit. He fixed it up, not too much, but he did touch up his face a little bit. So what people saw in the casket wasn't what she saw when she first saw his body. So they had the viewing, and then they had the funeral. And people in Chicago lined the streets, y'all. They lined the streets to pay their respects to Emmett.
And it was covered with glass. And we all looked down. This was our friend laying, looking like a monster.
They said that about 1 in every 5 had to be assisted out of the building. They would just go into a faint.
People just could not, like, especially women and mothers, people just could not take seeing his body. They couldn't believe that something like this happened. So they went and buried the body. And naturally, everybody was like, okay, that's going to be the end of it. And Mammy was like, hell no. No, it's not. I want these men prosecuted. I want them prosecuted for kidnapping my son. And I want them prosecuted for murdering my son. So, of course, people was like, what? 2 white men in Mississippi? All right, girl. Like, good luck with that one. But Mammy was content. She was like, I don't give a fuck what nobody is saying right now. No, I want somebody going, I'm going to get justice for my son. Like, I don't give a shit what nobody is saying. So, of course, the NAACP stepped in, and Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam were arrested and charged with murder and kidnapping. But first, they went on trial for murder. So the trial started, and all type of shit came out, y'all, that was completely untrue. Now imagine you're his mother, and you're sitting in the courtroom, and you hear this white woman step up there talking about, oh well, he touched me, and oh well, he said, you know, that he was with white women all the time, and that he had a white girlfriend, and that he did this and da 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 da. He made sexual advances to me, and even went as far as to, getting her lawyer, well, their lawyer, to imitate how he supposedly grabbed her. Now, everybody that was there, the people that did testify, because a lot of people were scared to testify, including Mose Wright, but a lot of people that were there that day or whatever would say that that counter that she was standing at was basically the same height as Emmett Till was. It was the same height. So how he gonna reach over and grab you and say all this shit to you? And Emmett's mother is like, my son couldn't have said all that bullshit to you because my son had a speech impediment. He stuttered. He stuttered really bad. So how was he able to get all those words out to you? Then the sheriff went as far as to say that that wasn't even him in the box. That wasn't even him. The body that they pulled from the river, that wasn't even him. That they said that Mammy was lying, telling everybody that that was her son, and it wasn't. And of course, Mammy's lawyer was like, well, how did you sign off on a death certificate of a Negro boy when you talking about you couldn't even tell what race the body was? He was like, well, I couldn't tell what race the body was, and and I didn't know, and to my knowledge, that wasn't him, and all type of shit like that. Then they had to call Mammy up there, and Mammy had to testify that that was her son. Yes, I know that was my son because this was the ring I gave him. This was his father's ring, and all type of stuff like that. Yeah, at the end of the day, it didn't make no difference. Honestly, at the end of the day, it didn't make no difference. They had people that, like, a gentleman, what was his name? I can't remember his name, y'all. I'll put it down at the bottom. But they had a man who was a teenager at the time, but he said, as a grown man, this man had an emotional breakdown just from having witnessed what happened. He didn't witness, like he didn't see, but he heard. He was walking home and Emmett was killed in a barn. They took him to a barn. After they left his uncle's house, they drove him to a barn and they beat him in the barn. They might have shot him in that barn and then dumped his body, or they might have took him to the river, shot him, and then dumped his body. But there was a young man walking by the barn and heard him screaming, heard him yelling and screaming. And that man said, when you hear somebody getting beat like that, that's something that you don't forget. That don't leave your memory. You know what I'm saying? But he said JW came out. The barn was JW's brother, his brother's barn. He said JW came out with a black man. This is another thing, y'all. They said that a lot of black men were involved in this entire thing. So he said a black man came out with JW, and JW came up to him and said, you know, did you hear anything? And he had a gun in his hand. He said, did you hear anything? He was like, no, I didn't hear anything. He said, are you sure? He said, I didn't hear nothing. Of course. You hear, like, of course somebody come up to you with a gun talking about, did you hear anything? And stuff. But that man said, I know for a fact that he got killed in that barn. If he didn't get killed in that barn, they beat him in that barn. That man had so much emotional damage and so much just from hearing that. He said that stayed with him until he was old, hearing Emmett Till scream and cry and basically beg for his life in that barn. They had Mose Wright testify, and they brought Mose Wright on the stand and asked him, you know, what two white men came to your house that night? And that man stood right up. There's a famous picture I'm gonna post of him standing up, pointing. Them two men right there was the ones that came to my house and threatened me and took my nephew. Like I said, y'all, that didn't make no difference because the jury found them not guilty. Mammy didn't even, like, she didn't even go to the verdict. She left. She left Mississippi. They had to sneak her into Mississippi for the trial. And then she left Mississippi before the trial was even over because she knew. She knew what the deal was or whatever like that. Then, at the end of the trial, they got rearrested for kidnapping. They were found not guilty of kidnapping. Even though they admitted to taking him. But them men didn't serve no jail time. And that was basically that, y'all. Like, so, oh boy. We can go back to 2022. I'm going to tell y'all what happened after. So let's get it. Alright, y'all. So we back in 2022. Now, I'm going to tell y'all what happened to all parties that were involved. The most important thing I can say to y'all right now is that, remember I told y'all in the beginning of this video that there is textbook Black history and then there is barbershop Black history. Now, textbooks would have you believe that the civil rights movement started with Rosa Parks not refusing to give up her seat on that bus. Yes, y'all, that was a pivotal moment. I'm not even going to down talk that. Like, that wasn't a big deal because it was. That was the first time anybody, that was the first documented time that somebody had refused to do something that a white person told them to do. But y'all, this incident is what started the civil rights movement. And anybody that grew up in 1955, like my mother was born in 1951. My daddy was born in 1948. But anybody that came up during that time will tell you that the civil rights movement started with that. Because we are talking before Facebook. We are talking before video cameras. We are talking before cell phones. We are talking before anything. Granted, there have been images, plenty of images beforehand of Black men being lynched. Plenty. This wasn't new. You know what I'm saying? This wasn't new. But this was the first time it was a kid. This was the first time it was a kid. And that's why Mammy said she did what she did. She said, yes, we all knew that there was racism. We all knew that they was out here murdering our Black men. But nobody ever stopped and said, wait a second. They killing kids too. We gotta watch out for our kids because they'll kill our kids too. And that was like a big thing during the trial. It was like, if he was disrespectful, okay. You know what I mean? If y'all took that as him being disrespectful, cool. But as a kid, he should have been dealt with as a kid. Y'all treated him and gave him a punishment like he was a grown-ass man. That was, you know, the best defense that the defense could come up with. You know what I mean? Like, or the prosecutor. I don't know which one, y'all. Mammy's lawyer. That was the best one he could come up with. Because there's not much that you could say to old-ass white men in the Jim Crow South. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's the best reason he could come up with. Like, yeah, I understand that y'all wanted to kill him, but at the same time, he was a kid. Y'all should have just beat the shit out of him, and that was it. A child should have been dealt with like a child. But Mammy, like I said, just from Mammy's act of saying, no, I want the casket open. No, we're not going to hide this. They already tried to hide my son being murdered by trying to bury him without letting me see his body, or try to deny me opening this box. Like, no, I want people to see what happened. And I feel like if she didn't do that, there wouldn't have been none of this other shit that's going on, like with people protesting and people taking videos of them cops wilding out, people taking videos of Ahmaud Arbery being shot down like a dog, and George Floyd being killed like a dog. Like, you know, like I said, y'all, this is 1955. This is way before cell phones. But she made the conscious effort to be like, nah, I want people to see this. People need to see this. And Mammy continued to try to get justice for her son until she died. She died in 2003. And what is so amazing that when Trayvon Martin was killed, I saw an interview with his mother, and his mother said, you know, when they first killed my son, I didn't want to speak publicly. I didn't want to make a comment on it publicly. I didn't have anything to say. I was mourning. I had grief. I didn't want to, you know, put that out there. She's like, I didn't want to speak. But she said something in me made me speak. And I immediately thought it made me too, because, you know, she had the same attitude. Like, I'm not no public speaker. I'm not a revolutionary. I'm not somebody that, you know, I'm not a Dr. King. I'm not a Malcolm X. Like I don't do that. I don't do speeches. But from that day, she started going on tours and doing speeches, talking about the South, talking about what they did to her son, segregation, racism. Like, she, you know what I mean? Up until she died, she was doing speeches and stuff. But when I heard Trayvon Martin's mom say that, it immediately made me think of her. Like, you know, like how she had the same attitude. Like, I'm not no public speaker. Like, you know, I don't do that. I'm just a mother, and they killed my son. So, you know. In 1956, Bryant and Milam did an interview with Look magazine, to where they got paid to tell their account of what happened. I think they got paid like $4,000. And in that account, they basically admitted, not basically, they admitted to killing Emmett Till. They gave a bit by bit account of what happened that night. But basically, it was Milam doing the talking. Roy didn't say anything. Roy got paid, but Roy didn't say shit. And Milam basically said, you know, yeah, we took him, and, you know, we took him to a barn, and we beat the shit out of him, and he was basically bragging, saying that we was nobody, and we was nothing, and he could fight us, and all type of shit. Basically, you knew it was a lie. And, you know, and they basically beat the shit out of him, took him to the river, made him take all his clothes off and all type of shit. And then, you know, asked him, oh, well, you still think you better than white people? And he was like, yeah. And he said, that's when I shot him, tied the cotton gin around his neck, and threw him in the river. And they got paid $4,000 for that interview. And because of the double jeopardy law, they couldn't be tried again. They never could be tried again because of the double jeopardy law. So, after the trial, Bryant lost his business because they were in Money, Mississippi, and it was primarily black. They primarily had black customers. So when that happened, black customers boycotted them. They didn't go to their store no more, and they lost money, and they had to go bankrupt, and then eventually they had to close their store down. And then they moved and ended up going broke and all type of shit, y'all. They basically lost everything. Carol and Roy ended up getting a divorce or whatever like that, and she said that, you know, there's some people that said that she said she never told him that Emmett had made passes at her and all type of stuff, and if she did say something, nothing of what she said was justification for what they did to him. Then she said that he was abusive to her over the years and all this other shit. She went and she changed her name. Then she went and recanted and said that she never said that. She never said that the story wasn't true. Typical bullshit when you a liar. You know how when you a liar, you have to tell a million lies to keep up with the lie that you told? Well, that's basically what she did. 1 minute it was yes, the next minute it was no. She's still alive and well. Don't know where she lives at. I think she still lives in the South, but don't know where she lives at. Roy ended up dying of cancer. He completely withdrew withdrew from the public eye. You know, he had some convictions for fraud and check fraud and food stamp fraud. He tried to start different businesses and stuff like that, but wouldn't nobody fuck with him. They was like, no, we know who you are. Like, motherfucker, we know who you are. Wasn't nobody trying to fuck with him because there was some people in Mississippi that felt like, okay, all right, if this kid was disrespectful to your wife, all right, you should have whipped him. But for you to beat him and then kill him and stuff, you got people looking at Mississippi like we some savages and we don't appreciate that. So some white people was not fucking with him because of that. And then you had black people that was just like, we not fucking with you at all. Who cares? Like, you know. Milam, the same thing. He ended up getting arrested for a bunch of other bullshit too. Stealing checks. Doing all type of stuff. You know, just to get money. Because he went broke too. Like, he couldn't hold a job down anyway. When this whole thing happened, he was unemployed anyway. So he couldn't hold down a job. Same thing. He ended up also dying of cancer. I think he ended up going blind. Like, yeah. That's basically it, y'all. Like I said, Mammy continued to speak on behalf of her son, continued to seek justice for her son and stuff. The case was open up until, well, the case was on the verge of being reopened because of what Carol Bryant had ended up saying, how she was like, how it was a lie. At first she said it was a lie, but then I guess when the FBI or whoever decided to reopen the case and start investigating this stuff, she got scared and was on some shit like, no, it wasn't a lie. I told the truth, you know. That's my guess, because she ended up changing her story again. Which in my opinion proves that she's a liar. But yeah, y'all, that's basically the end of the story. I mean, there's not much more I can say, y'all, except, like I said, y'all need to Google those pictures and really look and really, you know, this story is important because, like I said, if you look, it's like history repeating itself. You got black men being killed out here, hunted down like dogs, and a lot of it is being caught on video, and a lot of it is being caught on tape. You know, some of these people still get off, and some of these people get prosecuted. But, you know, I felt like this was the wave that started it. Emmett Till is the one that started it because she was the first one to actually put a face to racism, to segregation, to Jim Crow. Like, this was the face. His face, mutilated like that, gave a face to, you know, the civil rights movement, the racism, segregation, Jim Crow, all that. His face is forever. And then, like, you know, the later years, y'all, with the bus boycott, with the church bombing, and with Selma, like, so much stuff came after this. This is why I was saying to y'all how, you know, if you don't know Black history and all you know is what you was taught in school from a textbook, you would think that it was slavery, and then we skip over to the civil rights movement. At least when I was in school, that's how I was taught. It was basically slavery, skip, we doing the civil rights movement now. Like, now we in the 1950s and the 1960s and stuff like that. You know, that's basically how it was. But like I said, if you don't know your history, if you don't know Black history like that, you would think that, you know, everything started with Rosa Parks. Like, you know, us rebelling started with Rosa Parks. It didn't, y'all. It started with Emmett Till and her doing what a lot of mothers couldn't do, you know. But yeah, y'all, hope y'all like this video. I know it was dumb long. But like, comment, and subscribe, y'all. And I'll catch y'all in the next video. Your girl is back. And I miss y'all and I love y'all. Thank y'all for watching. But yeah, like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll check y'all in the next video. Peace.